So without further ado, let's make some buttons. Alright, it's handy to have some button stamps. I have these that are from Ink and Inkadoo. I have these that are from We Are Memory Keepers. These are some of my favorites. They're from Pink Persimmon. And I've also got this new Stampin' Up! Set that's got a cute little button card on it. But if you don't have any button stamps, don't worry, you really don't need them. They're just really fun to play with. You also don't have to have the button card stamp. Here I just used an inexpensive frame stamp and I layered on some pattern paper and I made a cute little button card that way. The first buttons we're going to make are chipboard buttons. They're actually fake chipboard buttons. I'm going to try to zoom this into the camera a little bit so you can see how nice and thick they are. And all you need to do to make these is simply to punch out some circles of cardstock. You'll need about 5 or 6. The more you use, the thicker they'll be. Here I have 5 right here. And then you simply want to take some wet glue and glue them together. This is a really great way to use up your scrap paper stash, because you always have those little bits of paper that are like 2 inches by 3 inches. You can't bear to throw them away, and they sit in your drawer unused. Well, grab your hole punch and grab your paper scraps and just start punching buttons. It's really a great way to use up the scraps. You can use your fingers to make sure they're all lined up and squeeze them together good. You can also, rub them on a sanding block if the edges look a little too rough to you, but for the most part, I think that's unnecessary. Alright. Well, here's one that's been glued together already. Now you just want to choose a stamp. This is one of those Pink Persimmon ones I was telling you about. I'm just going to ink it up in some coral, and I'm going to line it up and just stamp my button. Now that came out pretty good. If you want, you can roll the edges in an ink pad like this. If the ink's covering alright. If the ink doesn't cover very well when you do this, you may need to just grab a piece of sandpaper or an emery board and scuff up the edges a little bit, but mostly it'll work. It'll be just fine to ink the edges like this. Sanding adds quite a bit more time to the buttons, so I usually just skip it. Alright, now to make it really look like a button, you really ought to have buttonholes. That way you can tie it onto your card or tie it on a cute little button card and make it look really realistic. So I'm going to use my crocodile because it can punch through thicker things, and I'm just going to punch out those 2 holes with my smallest punch, which is about 1/8 of an inch. You want to make sure you can peek through the punch and see the hole where your button is stamped. There, isn't that cute? Now if you didn't like the look of the stark white, you could always grab a marker and color it in, but I think that's pretty cute just the way it is. Another thing you can use to make your buttons are dies. Now this is a die I've had for a long time. It's by Ellison. It's one of the thin cuts, and it's just simply called Buttons, and I think it's around $5. It's not very expensive, but with this you can cut fun foam and you can make your own chipboard. Now what I like to do to make my own chipboard is, see, here we have just some cardboard I got out of the recycling bin. It's simply like a cracker box, or this is a fruit snack package. It's just really thin chipboard. I never buy chipboard because I have a die cut machine and I've got tons of recyclables that I can cut up in it. So what I'm doing is using a glue stick, and I'm giving it a nice coat of adhesive, and then I'm going to take this pattern paper by Autumn Leaves, and I am just going to line it up and make sure I adhere it down really well. And then I'm going to run it through my die cutter with this die cut. Now I already cut some ahead of time just so you can see how easy it is. And here you can just pop them out. This had some 7 Gypsies paper on it because I like the newsprint. It goes with just about everything. And I'm just going to pop them out here. Now I will tell you, you have to rock it through back and forth a few times. Flip the die over and rock it back and forth a few times to get it to cut all the way through. I'm using a Big Shot, but it will work in a Cuttlebug as well. And you'll want probably a little needle tool to poke out the little holes. I seem to have misplaced mine. Surprise, surprise. I don't have everything together when I'm going to do a video. Nobody's shocked, I can tell. But you just poke out the little holes and you'll be all set to go. You can leave these as is because they already have the pattern paper right on them. So you do not need to have anything fancy to make these buttons. And see? Just a cute little button. Hope that was in frame. And I have some examples here. This is just on a little card. Now I took an old tag punch and a square punch, and that's what I used to make this button card. It certainly wasn't anything special that I bought for this project. And then I used a little bit of hemp cord from my jewelry making supply and strung it through the button and also strung it on the tag. So this will be really cute if I put it on a card or a gift or a scrapbook page. Okay, now I want to show you what you can do with fun foam. Fun foam is great because it'll cut with those really thin dies in your Big Shot or Cuttlebug or Sizzix, whatever machine you have. But it has some really neat qualities to it as well. Here are some buttons that I made with fun foam. I'm going to try to get this in frame for you. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but they have a really nice texture because I've pressed a rubber stamp into it. And I'm going to show you how you can get texture onto your fun foam. So first I have used my die cut that I just showed you to cut out the button. Now I'm going to take the stamp I just used, but I'm going to ink it up in pigment ink. And it needs to be pigment because if it's dye-based ink, it's not going to stick. And the heat from the heat gun that we're going to use in a second is going to set the ink. So here I have inked up the stamp, and I'm going to set it handy right here so I can just grab it in a second. I'm grabbing my heat gun. Excuse the camera wiggle. My camera was sitting on my heat gun cord. And I am going to heat up this piece of fun foam. You'll notice that it's going to shrink a little bit as it gets hot, and it will curl a little bit. That's how you know it's heating up. That ought to do it. It shrunk a little bit and kind of curled up a little bit. Now I'm going to line up my stamp and press it down. Just hold it for a second. Really press it good so that you'll get a nice good indent. And then when I lift it up, look at that cute button. I hope that's in frame and you can see it really well. And here's another little trick I can show you. Instead of using string to tie your buttons, try braiding cord or hemp twine. It is so much easier to thread because it's nice and stiff, so you don't have to thread a needle or anything. I'll show you. I'm just going to pass it through the holes in my button, and I don't need to do anything special. It's just going to go through there as easy as can be. Oh, another good thing about the fun foam, if you don't line it up just right, you can always flip it over and do the other side. So you kind of get two chances with each of your fun foam die cuts. Fun foam is very inexpensive. I've even seen it at the dollar store, but I prefer the kind they sell at the craft store or the department store. The Foamies brand is really nice. For some reason, sometimes the cheaper fun foam I've seen at the dollar store has an odd odor, something like mothballs that I don't really care for. But this works really well. So here you have a cute little button. I'm going to add it to my little button card here. And I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue. But if you do this, make sure you use low temp, because if you use high temp hot glue, it might melt your fun foam. And I'm just about out of hot glue in this gun. I'm always prepared, just like a Boy Scout. Okay, and there you have it. Isn't that cute? I just think they're so pretty, and they're so fun to make. Oh, another fun way to make buttons. I just splurged a little bit, and I got this die from Stampin' Up. It's also made by Ellison. It is an embosslet die, which means it cuts and embosses, and it just gives you the most beautiful little textured buttons. And they look pretty cute when they come right out of the thing, when you can get them out. Well, that little one's just going to stay there, I guess. But here's a look at what you have. You have the embossing and debossing side, and around each of the button is a steel, ridge where it cuts. But I'm going to show you how some of these buttons look because they're just so adorable. And you can see. So here I used a white core textured cardstock, and then I just sanded them to bring out the texture. Here I just used a cream cardstock, and I just rubbed it on an ink pad, and that's what we're going to do here. As you can see, you can mix and match the shapes, so you can use all of one kind. And the button card stamp is from Stampin' Up. And I just used a little colored pencil to, give it a little extra oomph, because it was kind of getting lost on that dark cardstock. So here's what you do when you have these little embossed buttons. You simply take a button, make sure the raised side is down, and just rub it on the ink pad, and there you go. If you want a little bit more color, if the contrast is too much for you, just go over and color it with a marker and it will look great. Or you can even use a second ink pad, you know, it's completely up to you. There are so many options when you're making your own buttons. It's very addictive. In fact, I'm having a very stressful, the month of February was just really stressful in my house. Nothing major, but it just seemed like anything that could go wrong would go wrong. And I spent an entire day last week just making buttons and completely relaxing. It was just fabulous. But there you have it. There's a few easy ways for you to make your own custom buttons. Look around your scrapbook room. Look at the frame stamps that you have. Look at the punches that you have. See what you can use to make your own custom buttons. Scraps of pattern paper layered on top of each other would make a cute button card. You don't have to go out and buy every new set that comes out. You can really make do with what you have and make some really cute stuff.